Welcome back, everybody, to the Check-In Podcast, your favorite podcast. You are now tuned into a special limited series called the Cinefiles. Yes, that's a play on words. This is a special series where we talk about all things cinema, from the writing to the directing, cinematography, the purpose, everything that encompasses a film. We sit here and we talk about it. Today, Ian's not with me, but some days he will be, and we'll be talking about the films that interest us. Today, we have special guest, Nehemiah Thompson. And we're going to be rapping about Snowfall, the greatest show on television, in my opinion, at the moment. But before we get into like what we're talking about, you guys know that every week I check in with you guys saying, if you could use one word to describe your week so far, what would that word be? But this week, since we're doing a film series, I'm going to check in just a little bit differently with you guys, if you guys don't mind. So I'm going to ask my guests, my audience, and myself 3 check-in questions that I have right here. And the 3 questions are, what did you recently watch that made you cry? What did you recently watch that made you laugh? And what did you recently watch that made you curious, like beyond the programming? You know, when you left the programming, you wanted to look up something that you saw in the show or the film, or you just wanted to watch more things about that. So because Nehemiah is our guest, he's going to go first. And, you know, he sent me the stuff beforehand, but it might have changed. So Nehemiah, I'm going to ask you, what did you recently watch that made you cry, made you laugh, and made you curious?
Something I watched that made me cry was yesterday. I watched The Parent Trap. And it wasn't even like sad tears. Mm-hmm. It was like, damn, this is like a really nice story.
Feel good.
Right. Yeah. Like, yeah. You need something, stuff like that. Shows that, or movies, like media that made me laugh. Probably I did a double feature of Head of State with Chris Rock and Bernie Mac.
Okay.
And Undercover Brother.
Okay.
Always a feel good. But another thing that's like a TV show side, because we are talking about Snowfall. I watched Southside on HBO. And that is that is a very funny show. Uh-huh. And I hope everybody watches it. And I hope you guys watch it while it's like still in circulation now. Because I don't want it to be one of those things where it's like it gets canceled, then everybody watches it. Like it's pretty good. It's really funny.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah.
Have you seen High Fidelity?
I've seen the movie and the show, and I like both of them. Yeah.
So you're upset when it got canceled?
Not really, because I knew how it was going to end. Mm-hmm. You see the movie.
Okay.
But it was a good show. Zoe Kravitz deserves a chance.
No, because you brought up a point. Speaking of Zoe Kravitz, she looks amazing in the new Batman trailer. Yeah. Amazing. Like I'm about to go. I'm not even like a DC type person. Like I've seen. Sorry to drift off, but I've seen The Dark Knight, and I mean, I don't think it was a bad film.
It's not a good Batman movie.
I don't think the hype. People kept saying it's the greatest superhero movie. It's the greatest superhero movie. So I watched it expecting to see the greatness, and I'm sitting here like, okay.
I think what The Dark Knight has is Nolan's signature mystery.
Okay.
But that's not Batman. And like Batman is, he's the protector. He's the watchman. He's the overseer of Gotham. It's like in The Dark Knight, he doesn't do that. He does that a lot in Batman Begins. And I think that's the best out of those 3 movies. The Dark Knight, Batman Begins, and The Dark Knight. Yeah, I think that's the best one.
I haven't seen The Dark Knight Rises or Batman Begins.
You ain't gotta watch The Dark Knight Rises.
Is The Dark Knight Rises the one with Blade? I mean, what's his name?
Bane.
Bane.
Terrible movie.
I said Blade. I'm sorry. Movie. Y'all see how much I don't know about Batman, nor do I care. That's what my brother said. He was just like, Cameron, you thought The Dark Knight was bad. It gets worse.
It does get worse. It's like, and Christopher Nolan, Inception, like he can make good movies.
Yeah.
That's not, I don't know what happened.
So what'd you think about Tenet?
I saw like half of it.
Tenet was a hard watch, and I saw that in theaters. And I'm sitting here like, I already knew I was going to see a Christopher Nolan movie, so I'm like, you need to lock in, you need to focus, like you don't want to miss anything. And I watched the entire movie, Robert Pattinson, John David Washington, and all. And I'm just sitting here like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, it was so. It's one of those things where it's like, the TikTok sound, like if the girls that get it.
The girls that, yeah.
I wasn't one of the ones that got it.
Uh-huh.
But I can appreciate those who like, this is the greatest movie of 2021. Like it was cool. The half I saw was cool.
Uh-huh.
The half I didn't see, I'm guessing it's not cool. So because I turned it off. So
it was. Everybody got paid. Congrats to them.
Yeah, literally. Shout out to that.
That's all I have to say. But we derailed a little bit. But your last question is, what did you recently watch that made you like curious beyond the programming?
Show probably Euphoria,
Mm-hmm.
because I have so many questions and there's so many plot holes and there's
Mm-mm.
so much to unpack there, and not even in a good way. So I like that. Something I like. I'm really deep into why is it like this.
Okay.
But yeah, in a good way. Probably Black and White.
Oh, film we're just
Black
talking
and
about.
yeah,
Mhm.
great movie. Kind of delves into like the I don't know if say like the underbelly, but like what makes people and what makes hip hop culture and Black culture so appetizing to like white non-Black audiences, and like how their whole lives kind of revolve around it.
Gotcha.
You know, and it's a good watch. I recommend everybody to try it out.
Yeah, we talked about it. And when you were telling me all the people in it, you said Raekwon, Method Man.
Yes, Raekwon, Method Man, Mike Tyson has a cameo.
Uh-huh.
Robert Downey Jr.
Oh wow.
Jared Leto, Brooke Shields.
Oh, see, now I'm gonna watch it. I mean, I was already gonna watch it when we talked about it, but
Right.
I mean, you bringing up all these, you didn't say all those people. He said all the Black people first.
Those are the important ones.
I mean,
It's
they
Black
are.
History Month. It's
But I
Black
would watch.
History Month.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So Black History Month. Let me answer my own questions. Black History Month edition. What did you recently watch that made you cry? Oh, so speaking of Snowfall, I'm the type of person that I'm definitely like a crier in shows, movies, all that stuff. Like certain shit just hits me hard. And like Snowfall like did that. Like with season 4. By the way, if you haven't seen Snowfall, this episode is a complete spoiler. So do yourself a favor, catch up, binge the first 4 seasons. Season 5 comes out Wednesday, February 23rd, and then come watch this episode. But yeah, Snowfall made me cry. Something that made me laugh recently. Shout out to Abbott Elementary. That show is so fucking funny.
Very good show.
I love the way that they like. It's a comedy, and it's always a comedy. It's not even like a dramedy with. It's not even like a dramedy that's mainly comedy with comedic elements. It's a complete comedy, except for like they touch on like real issues within the public school system in a really funny way, and it doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel draining. So Abbott Elementary made me laugh. And then something that made me curious beyond the programming was in my Blacks in Film class at Howard, I saw Eve's Bayou. And I've seen like all the shows that I'm watching in this Blacks in Film class, like I've seen either in passing or I've seen like, bits and pieces of it, thinking that I've seen the whole movie. But I finally sat down and watched the entire movie from beginning to end. And I was more so curious about not necessarily the plot, but like just like the Gothic South and like how people like portray that in film. I want to watch some more films that portray the Gothic South, because the only like reference I can remember, or like a film that I've seen that portrays that, is Beyonce's Lemonade film.
Or Lovecraft Country.
Yes. Yeah, we did say that.
Country.
Her visual album and Lovecraft Country. Those are the like only two films that I've seen in that genre. So watching Eve's Bayou and seeing that genre, it was kind of ahead of its time, like editing wise and directing. Like I think that was a really well edited and directed film. So that made me curious beyond the programming. But now we talk about the show of the hour, which is Snowfall. And for those of you guys out there who don't know what Snowfall is a show created, directed, written by the late, great John Singleton. And it's about the infancy of the crack era and the man who basically brought the drug to his hometown, like literally his home block, and created a drug empire off of this. So, with that being said, why do you like Snowfall? What's your favorite aspect about Snowfall? As a broad question, but let's just start there.
Why do I like Snowfall? First of all, I'm a fan of crime shows and shows where we root for the bad guys. Like I was one of those kids who went to see Revenge of the Sith, and I enjoyed all the parts where Anakin, was being Darth Vader.
I mean, he was just so tough. Like, I'm sorry, like he was definitely like
really a boss.
Yeah, because I've been Star Wars. I'm gonna say maybe like a couple years ago, before like the very last one came out in this new trilogy. And so but I watched it in chronological order.
Yeah.
So I'm just sitting here like seeing Anakin like, you know, like go from being an orphan basically and meeting Queen Amidala and all that stuff, and then him being the bad guy. Like that was a crazy character arc. But yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. So
no, you straight. You like who can't talk about Star Wars for hours?
Yeah, facts.
But like I love to see the antagonist be the main like character.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that aspect. But another thing is like I'm a big fan of John Singleton and like, you know, Boys in the Hood, Higher Learning. And I think this show really was like a master class in him saying, I can do great movies and I can do great TV shows. And, you know, like you see it in the way that the structure is of the show and just how there's plot holes and there's things that are unanswered, but they're intentional. It's not, you know, you're not left wondering.
Right.
You know, it's like every question you have is going to get answered eventually, but it's like, it's not in a way where you feel like the story is incomplete. And I think, you know, the team at Snowfall, John Singleton, you know, rest in peace. I think they set up a great rubric for what the show is today. And it's, you know.
I definitely think so too, because when he passed away, I was kind of anxious to see like how the show would turn out.
Right. Like, but where does it go?
Yeah. Like I was afraid that they were going to lose like the Singleton vision. Because I remember we talked about this earlier. You were saying like, this is basically like him flexing his muscle.
Literally.
Which I like completely agree with. Like Snowfall, I do like drug shows. You know, I watch all the Power series. I haven't started BMF yet, but I watched what's the thing called? The Wire. Only the first season. I've seen The Wire, so don't judge me out there. I'm gonna watch The Sopranos, and I heard Breaking Bad is good too.
I never seen Breaking Bad.
Okay.
I have no urge to.
I don't have an urge to either, but everybody's always talking about it.
They say that's the greatest show, but like I think The Sopranos is the greatest show.
I haven't seen The Sopranos yet, but that is on my watch list. But I don't think this show is definitely a drug show, but it's just not your average drug show. Like, and I don't think it doesn't come from a place of look how good this gangster's living. You know what I'm saying? With like a lot of like, I feel like a lot of drug shows like Power glorifies like the only way I would compare Snowfall and Power is that they're both shows with drug elements. That's pretty much it. But like with Power, you don't really see the effects of like what they're selling has on the people that they're selling to. It's
like this. It's like a centralized kind of, we follow the main character. Because I never seen Power.
Oh, okay.
So it's like,
yeah, it's like you follow the main character as they do their business. You follow the main character's family, but like you never see like, you don't really see the main character in their community like that.
Oh wow.
And like the thing about like Power is that Ghost is like the distro.
Oh, so you don't even see the dealers.
You see the dealers, but like you don't see them like a lot. Whereas like Franklin had to work his way up from being a dealer to being a distro to being the connect stuff. Like, I mean, he's not the connect now, but like he had to work he started something from the ground up and he's working his way up there. And you're seeing him start shit from the ground up. Whereas in Power, he's already established.
Yeah.
And so like all that like stuff that you would see that would run into somebody who's just starting out, you don't see that in Power like you do in Snowfall. But like I said, I think Snowfall is just such a good show because it's not just Franklin is the protagonist and he is the main character that we follow, but like we see how like his actions impact his community, and we see how we see how his actions and how this drug impacts his community. And just the thing about crack is just like it's a fairly new drug. Like it's not like heroin that's been out. It wasn't like Sherm where like people used to dip their cigarettes in Sherm and shit like that. Like this is post 60s with all our Black leaders, post 70s Black Panther movement. This is the coming of age story for Franklin Saint, and it's what a lot of people's coming to age stories look like in the rock cocaine era in the US. And I think like, what do you think about the way that they combined all of these themes into like one plot, I should say, without being like too on the nose with every single thing?
I think the thing Snowfall has done since season 1 was kind of always like you chip at the iceberg a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, when Franklin meets Avi, it's like a chip at the iceberg, and then he meets Reed, and there's another chip at the iceberg, and then he's, dealing,
Mm-hmm.
and he puts on Leon, he puts on Kevin. It's like it's always a chip at the iceberg. So it's like the iceberg is slowly getting smaller and smaller
Mm-hmm.
to where this gap is
Mm-hmm.
that Franklin, is the outsider trying to get in and is now inside. Because this season he's in Colombia, right? Or he's in Belize, or I know he's setting up his own shop, getting his own product, doing it really like hands on. So he's like really, he's inside, and I think they're kind of molding it all around, because this is probably going to be more when he's like a deeper connection with the government,
Mm-hmm.
a deeper connection with like how this, crack is basically destroying his community.
Yeah.
Cause like we see, Wanda, and we saw, what was the girl's name?
Mel.
Right. How she had the full ride to Spellman,
Mm-hmm.
and she partied a little too hard, and then boom. So it's like you can see it, and it's like now we're about to get the full like aspect. Cause we also had the gang war,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, him and Scully, like it's about to get real deep.
Yeah, it's season 4 gets really deep, because what I like about the show, it's like it shows you how like crack like touched like every person's life like during that time in a different way. Like you were selling this extremely addictive drug, and I looked it up when I was watching the first season back like a couple of years ago. I looked it up. I'm trying to figure out like, well, what made crack so special? Like people do.
Cheap.
I mean, it's cheap, but
Yeah.
people do cocaine all the time, and I don't see people like, completely strung out. But the difference between crack and cocaine is, one, crack is rocked up cocaine. And the thing of what makes crack so addictive is that your high comes within like the first like 30 seconds of you inhaling. And then it lasts for about, I want to say 5 minutes to half an hour. So that's not a long high at all. Whereas like where I looked up weed, it's like your high will come within like the first 15 to 30 minutes of smoking, and it could last anywhere between an hour and 5 hours. So when you look at a drug that not only is it cheap, but it's extremely addictive and you get the high instantly, I see like, okay, this is how it was moving in the streets like that. What I do enjoy that this show touches on is not only how addictive that it was, but how, one, it was like destroying our communities in different ways. Like gangs were like, it was, I remember watching this documentary on Netflix called Cocaine, Corruption, and Crime, or
Is it still on there?
yeah. But some of the people were saying like it was like the first drug you see where like it was taking literal mothers away from their children. Like you see like fathers abandon children all the time, and that's not to like shit on fathers, but like low key, it's kind of easier to abandon a child that you literally didn't push out of your body.
Yeah.
So for mothers to be abandoning their children
In search of this high.
Yes.
Yeah.
In search of this high, and like, people just killing each other. Like I don't think we every generation has their thing, especially Black people, but I don't think we understand like how much was targeting our community at that time. And we literally, no, I don't think people see crack as an epidemic. Like they label it as an epidemic, but like that was literally taking a lot of us out. Like we had crack, the addiction, we had gang violence that's ripping, like killing everybody. Like we're going to war in our communities. We're going to war in our neighborhoods. Like I see people on Twitter, like not even Twitter, but just people talking about how the United States can't afford a war, on like a domestic war. The last domestic war that we had in the US was the Civil War. And I'm sitting here like, oh, y'all really like don't understand that niggas was really going to war during the crack era. Like literally like riding up in their cars, spraying shit down. Like our communities were in war. And so like just seeing how they tie in community, survival, race into this show, Um, I definitely see it more as like it's a fictional show with nonfiction details,
Right.
but it's giving like it's giving like documentary because like even though these are made up
Scenarios.
I was yeah, even though these are made up characters, they're not made up scenarios.
Yeah.
So yeah. Who's your favorite character on the show?
Probably Franklin. You know, like I feel like it's the easy answer. Because he is our main guy. And while the story, I would say the story, you know, it doesn't revolve around him. I think he is a central point, and you know, everything. I think everything comes back to Franklin, whether it's focused on him or not, and throughout the episode or throughout the season or whatever. Like everything's always gonna wrap back around to Franklin. So I like that he is this, like, you know, he's this pivotal part of the show. While, you know, I would say like while like Wilt's being, you know, this hands-off factor and so many things that go on. Like I think like a big thing is like you brought up how when you cried when Leon killed Scully's daughter and how that was directly Franklin's fault. Yes. And he had nothing to do with it.
No, that was directly Franklin's fault because Franklin, what I think is what we forget a lot of times, at least what I forgot watching the show, is that Franklin is very young. Season 1, he's 19. Season 4, he's like...
So season 1, he's 19? I thought he was in high school.
No, he came back from college because remember he couldn't afford it.
That was college? I thought he was in high school.
No, he came back from college because he couldn't afford it. And so he was back trying to work, get some money.
I thought he went to... When you talking about the last episode, and it shows the backstory how he was at school. And he met the guy whose dad did porn. But I'm saying I thought...
Oh, he met that dude in high school.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, they're high school friends, but Franklin was in college when we met him. And yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was in college when he met him. And like sometimes Franklin would go up there like during the summertime to hang out and stuff like that.
Right.
But like I said, I think what we forget a lot of times is that Franklin was 19 when he started his drug business. And in season 4, when you literally see people fighting over territories because, you know, crack is lucrative. So everybody's trying to make as much money as possible. And you have to think about, like, for him to be starting this drug business at 19, like, what could make a 19-year-old want to start selling a drug and hurting their community like that? And speaking of community, who is Franklin's community? Because when I think of community, I think that you look out for your community, but he's literally selling them like a drug. So do you think Franklin like sees his community as like a whole, like he is a protector and a leader in the Black community? Or do you think his community is just him and his family, the same crew?
I think that Franklin views the community as a whole, probably as like as a commodity, like, you know, like it's liquid. It doesn't have to be there. So I think that's how he's able to, you know, distribute and sell this crack, like, because he doesn't feel like this is his responsibility. So I think in short, his community is, you know, him and his family and the same crew. But I think, you know, ultimately I feel like his community is the government because, you know, Reed and the CIA are the ones who are, you know, kind of like filtering this stuff in, and Franklin is helping them. So he's helping the greater good, which is not always the greater good, you know.
I think in the beginning, he thinks he's helping his community. I think, well, what I know, what he says at the end of season 3 is after he gets shot, it's just like he estimated correctly how lucrative this drug would be. He underestimated the cost. And by the cost, like he underestimated like people's lives are being like completely destroyed. And everybody has a choice. Do you think Franklin has a choice in being a drug dealer? Like, do you think he has the ability to walk away or no?
I want to say yeah, because we all have free will and we all can make these choices. And, you know, like if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. But I feel like you sometimes get yourself caught in a situation and you're in too deep. And it's like, it's a, you know, it's sometimes very difficult to get out of a sticky situation. And I think that's where Franklin is. Um like even when he was in rehab and he was trying to, filter his money elsewhere, like and try to, launder it, try to be a little cleaner, like with the speaker business, I think, and the shelter. But I'm like, I think he knows that he's in too deep. And it's like, it would be selfish. And I think that's back to the community. I think he knows it would be selfish if he got out. So he's trying. I think that's him, worrying about his community a little bit.
You think it would be selfish if he got out?
I mean, I think that's how he's viewing it. Like he wouldn't be able to help out the people that need to be helped out in the short term, like in the shorthand, if he's not around, because he's the facilitator in a lot of stuff.
So at this point, do you think is personal survival greater than the cost of your community? Do you think Franklin is trying to survive, or do you think he's trying to thrive? Because if he was trying to survive, I would say he has enough money to do that by now.
I think that it's one of those things that he bounces, in between. And I feel like that was a good point. Like I feel like it tiptoes every season. I think like in the beginning he was trying to thrive, I guess, and then now he's in survival mode, and like it definitely flip-flops with what is going on in his life. Like when he's trying to survive the war with Man-Boy and Scully, and then like he's thriving when everything is good. I think that's like a climax thing, though. Like cause he gets shot and then he's trying to survive. So
I think that because in season 4, when Louis and Jerome went down to Little Rock, to set up
Arkansas, they stepped out on him.
Yeah, well, no, Franklin asked him to do that.
But you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like the season 5 is opening up, and Louis she wants to be the head. She wants to do her own thing. So her
getting shot definitely had something to do with that.
Yeah, like I feel like she's like, less.
No matter, like, Leon's his best friend, Jerome's his uncle, his mom is his mother, but like Louis really is Franklin's right hand. Like she's the one that helped him sell the first bird because he brought that to Jerome. Okay, another question: who do you think is like most responsible for getting Franklin to the drug business? Like, do you think it was Franklin himself, his mother, Louis, Jerome? And I say all that because like I think him seeing what his mom didn't have gave him the ambition to get it by any means.
That I say if we're pointing fingers, I would say Louis.
Okay.
Because she definitely was an enabler. I mean, and it worked out. Like I feel like you can have enablers in good situations, but I feel like personal responsibility. Like it was his decision to jump off the porch, and it's one of those situations where it worked out. So
I think it's personal responsibility too. I think regardless of Franklin's intentions, I still think I think he's been selfish from the beginning. Honestly, like I understand that he was like, I'm trying to make you guys money. I'm trying to get us out of this, which he did. But like again, going back to how young he is, he brought that first kilo of coke to his uncle and said like, can you help me move this? And weed and coke are two completely different things. Like anybody could sell weed.
Two different markets, two different
markets, everything. Like you gotta look a certain way to sell certain shit. And he came to his uncle with that, and he was just like, his uncle was just like, this right here is gonna get you killed. Take this out my house. I'm not helping you sell this. And Franklin is just like, if I don't sell this, like I'm gonna die pretty much. And so that's when Louis is like forced to help him sell it, because like Louis is his aunt. So like her and Jerome been together for a minute. So Louis sees Franklin as her child just as much as Jerome does, just as much as Sissy does, all that. But I think that Franklin, as we keep going back to how young he is, I think he put his family in a very dangerous situation without calculating like how dangerous it would be. Like as soon as he got some money, he should have moved the whole family out the neighborhood. Right. Like nobody should have been staying in the neighborhood. Like they should have been playing things a lot safer. And then like on top of that, he doesn't, like we said, Louis is his right hand man, and he doesn't really listen to Louis, because we see in season 4, Louis told him to go after Manboy and not Scully.
I think a big part that we see is Franklin's pride plays a lot into the decisions he makes. Like buying his mother's house when she asked him to not worry about it. She, you know, like to have that sense of, and I'm not gonna say security, but like he has this feeling that I did this for you. I was able to do this for you. I was able to get us here. You know, and he even says like, you know, I get us out of everything. I get us out of every motherfucking thing.
Yeah,
like he I think he holds that sense of pride that he is the guy to go to. And I think that really does kind of hinder his decision making sometimes.
He has an ego trip.
Yeah, he does.
Which is like, it's annoying to see. Damson Idris is a really good actor because you see that when he's giving advice on what to do and saying like, you know, you can't do this, you know, you can't do that. And you can see him contemplate it and like consider that is a good option, but because I didn't come up with it,
right?
I'm not going to do it, which is
not a viable option.
Which is insane. Yeah. It's insane. And I think like, you know, him not making the right decision is causing other people to make decisions for him. I know in the beginning, like Franklin's talking about what the white man has and what I don't have, and I'm playing their game by my rules and stuff like that. I see Franklin as, and this is where like Franklin is a capitalist. He's getting greedy. He has more than enough money to do what he wants to do. He's getting greedy and he's doing it at the cost of other people's lives. And so in the beginning, Franklin makes it seem like he's pursuing this drug empire based on race to help his people, help his community, put money back in his community. Do you think his decisions now are influenced by his race or influenced by other more things?
I was going to say that a lot of the time that is like a motif in things like this. Like these people want to sell drugs and they want to have the empire and they want to do crime to uplift their communities. And like the Sopranos, like a lot of the reasons why the mafia exists, I'm saying, you know, quote the mafia, but you know, it exists is because they wanted to uplift Italian people when the police weren't. So it's like there's a certain switch when, you know, it goes from uplifting the community at a whole and your race to uplifting yourself. Right. And I think that Franklin has, you know, he's done enough for the community, opened the shelter. You know, like I feel like he's like, I'm gonna keep uplifting the community, but in short, my community, you know, and then even shorter myself. Right. So I think that's just where he is with it. And
so do you think that Franklin views so again, is Franklin's personal survival worth more to him than like his community impact? Because even though he's still seeing like it's fucking crazy out here, like niggas is killing each other, people are like so strung out that, you know, families are getting torn apart and abandoned. I also like, so the 1994 crime bill that Bill Clinton initiated is a direct result of the crack cocaine era. And I was talking to my mother about it because Bill Clinton was a Democrat. You know, most black people are known for being Democrats. I think that after post-Trump era, we're going to be less known for being Democratic and more known for being abstinent in voting or just being more what's the word I'm looking for?
Open. I want to say open because I feel like what we're because you know, we are young. We're 22. You know, like I feel like we're really hitting the ground running with politics. Yeah. And I feel like, you know, us growing up and we're in, you know, a push and we're learning about the government. And it's like now we're in this position where we can vote. It's like it's not as clear as black and white. It's really not as clear as Democrats are the good guys, Republicans are the bad guys. It's like I feel like Biden is he's like this anomaly where we're seeing the lies that, you know, a president could tell and like to get the vote. And then it's like I'm a cancel student loans. It's like, okay, well, when you gonna cancel them? Like we're waiting. Right. Like I'm a handle, you know, I'm gonna handle COVID. Okay, like handle it. So it's, you know, I feel like now we are like let's be open. Let's not just vote Democrat because, you know, Bill Clinton played the saxophone. You know, like because Joe Biden was on Hot 97. Like I feel like it's time. I'm not gonna say like I'm not gonna say I'm a Republican or anything. What I'm saying, it's time for us to really dig deep into what these politicians are saying.
Yeah, and vote better. And
Yeah.
so and that's why like I brought up like the 1994 crime bill being a direct result of the crack cocaine era, because I was talking to my mom about it, and I'm just like, because when I was doing some research, I'm like, Mom, y'all voted for the crime bill?
Mhm.
And she was like, Cameron, you don't even understand. She was just like, as a community, we didn't know what to do. Like she was just like how people were just killing each other. Like it was getting. She was like, it was bad because at that point in time, her and my dad lived in DC. So, you know, crack cocaine
Where'd they
popped
live?
up. They lived in Northwest.
Okay.
They lived in Northwest. I was born at Children's Hospital up street from Howard.
Oh yeah.
So
Wait.
but she was just like how like, so you know, like crack popped off in the 80s in California, but it made its way to like DC and the East Coast, and it was really crazy in the 90s. And that's
Yeah.
when she lived. That's when her and my dad lived in DC. And she was just like, you don't understand. Like it was dangerous to drive at night. People were getting carjacked. I think in the 90s, at one point in time, DC was definitely the murder capital.
It was DC and Baltimore definitely flip-flopped a few times.
Yeah, the murder
Yeah.
capital. And that's the murder capitals in a lot of our inner cities over shit like drugs, trafficking that we don't talk about in our community enough, how we traffic our own people. They touched on it in season 3 of The Chi. If you haven't seen The Chi, you should go see that show. That's a pretty good show. Shout out to Lena Waithe for doing that one thing, right?
She got one thing under her belt.
Yeah, I feel her on that one. But yeah, like just how this era, I don't think Franklin, even though he's seeing everything in front of him, I still don't think he's calculating the magnitude as to which this will go. And he's trying to keep something at bay that's bigger than himself.
Literally.
At this point. And he's doing this by helping fund an illegal war in Nicaragua by the United States. And just so you guys know, the war that was happening in Nicaragua was not approved by Congress. Congress said, let me look up this documentary. Okay, it's called Crack, Cocaine, Corruption, and Conspiracy. And it says it's a 2021 documentary film made for Netflix and directed by Stanley Nelson. Its story focuses on the emergence and effects of the 1980s crack epidemic in the United States, which resulted in negative effects on America's inner cities. With Franklin helping the CIA, again, going back to race, he's essentially working for the white man, even though he's saying he did this so that he wouldn't have to work for the white man. What do you think Franklin's last straw should have been in this show? Because there's so many things. It's like when he found out Teddy was CIA. His alias is Reed Thompson. His real name is Teddy McDonald. He found out Teddy was CIA when he saw Mel get on drugs and like basically destroy her life. When he got shot, when Louis got shot, when that little girl got killed. Because even though like you said, even though Franklin was not there, like that situation was his fault. Even though like in the episode he tries to Leon is going under like a tremendous amount of guilt. And Leon's my favorite character, by the way. But Leon's going under a tremendous amount of guilt because he's like, you know, he sprayed up that car, and Franklin's like, well, that little girl shouldn't have been in the car anyways. But I mean, like at that point in time with the gang wars, like you could say nobody should come out their house for real, because everybody was getting killed. But what do you think Franklin's last straw really should have been?
I feel like, you know, stuff like this, like paid in full, you know, at their last straw is always when the person gets shot. I feel like this really like a testament to Franklin showing, you know, how Teflon he is. Like he's like, you know, like to be funny, but like I'm built different. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that should have been his last straw, or I don't know, something like I feel like he goes through a lot of things that could be deemed as like, let me end this, and he's just like, I'm built different. So I definitely applaud Franklin for all the things he goes through, and his like headstrongness, he really keeps it going, and
he does keep it going. I think you see the paranoia and the anxiety eating him up in season 3 and season 4, though. Like especially when
he have the night terrors.
having night terrors, just like hyperventilating, like really going through stuff. Like it's amazing to see him. I would not be able to get a good night's rest at night. I'm telling you right now, if I was going through that amount of stress, I'd get maybe max 4 hours of sleep a night, just off like everything that I'd be handling alone. But not only is he tough, like for getting shot, I think Franklin got a strong heart. I'm surprised in the season 5 trailer to see him with another woman because both of
his last girlfriend was Man-Boy's sister, right? Or
no, his last girlfriend was Man-Boy's
cousin, something.
No, she wasn't related to Man-Boy. Man-Boy just used her to basically get close to Franklin.
Oh, Scully's baby mother was Man-Boy's sister. Yeah. But yeah, like, you know.
And the girl before him, Mel, I mean, she did kill her dad. Franklin killing her. So
cold-hearted, man. He's cold-hearted.
Because that's like an unwritten rule. Like I feel like in the streets, like with most shows that I watch, one thing you don't kill no cop. Like that's like, you can do almost anything else. You kill a cop, you're done. This man killed a cop who is his next door neighbor, who is the father of his girlfriend, who became strung out on the drugs that he's putting out on the streets. So, and then after that, that's how he gets shot because Mel, you know, she shoots him. I would, with 2 women betraying me like that, I'm not really trying to get in a relationship again. But again, here we go. We see him in season 3. I guess he has to have a love interest. And so that's what happens. Now, we talked about Franklin's last straw and how he's built different. What do you think? How do you think everybody else handling like their last straw? Like, how do you think that impacts the story between like Louis and Jerome wanting to go on their own, Leon saying, I don't even want to do this no more.
I feel like Leon has the most conscience. Because he's attached to Wanda, which is, you know, which is rightfully so. This is girl.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he saw her get strung out. He always got a soft spot for her. He's eaten up at the fact that he killed this little girl. Like I feel like he is gonna be the person who him and Scully are gonna have big turnarounds. I think Scully, he might become like a youth pastor or something. You know, losing your daughter is definitely tough.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I feel like losing your daughter in an indirect, I'm gonna say direct action to something you did.
Yeah,
that's gotta be different on him too. So I feel like, you know, that's another thing. I feel like John Singleton is a great storyteller at real emotions, like Boys in the Hood. Yeah, like Boys in the Hood. How Ricky's death eats up at Trey, eats up at these people. Like it's like he really shows that actions have consequences, and on the flip side, people grieve like actions, and people, you know, think about decisions and ponder on them, and like, you know, it's just like it's one of those things where a filmmaker is showing you how well they can tell a story,
how well they can develop characters.
Right. That's where I was hinting at, but you know, you hit the nail on the head. Even
though the story is focused on Franklin, I will say that they flesh out all of the characters very, very well. Yeah. From and they don't even have to like go on a full backstory. Like it'll be the conversations that they have. The like getting most of Louis' backstory through Claudia. Like how, because Claudia is basically a pimp for real. She's she pimps out young women, and Louis, she was a prostitute at one point, but she's also like, she knew that wasn't going to be her life forever. Like she where she is now with Franklin, she imagined her life to be like that. She said, I knew I was going to make money. I knew I was going to do this. I knew I was going to do that. Again, he fleshes out characters really well, and he does a really good job of making stories as complex as they can, because Franklin's father is a recovering drug addict and alcoholic.
And he was a Black Panther.
Yes. Franklin's father is, you know, a multi-layered man. And in the beginning, in the first season, we don't see too much of him. We see maybe like glimpses and pieces of him, but he's, you know, he had to go away because he wasn't clean. And then for Franklin in season 4 to be funding a shelter, a homeless shelter for his father runs, because his father was once homeless, recovering, blase. And to also be a drug dealer, like that's gotta be crazy. And his parents giving him insight, like again, he's wise for his age, but still age comes with wisdom.
Yeah.
And age comes with wisdom, especially in the time periods that you grew up in. Because like I said, like I was getting on my mom, like, how could you vote for the crime bill? Like, look what happened. Like we have police brutality is out of control right now. I mean, like it's always been bad, but I mean, I just feel like in the 2000s, it's just, you know, skyrocketed. Like this is, and I'm sitting here like, this is the direct result of who you guys voted for and stuff like that. And then her telling me like her point of view of how like it was Black people asking for the crime bill, Black people asking for y'all to lock drug dealers up and stuff like that because we literally didn't know what the fuck to do with our communities. Franklin's father, I think, gives him like a good insight up to everything that we've survived as a community and what he's seen, how he's seen us survive as a community, and telling him, you know, you didn't live the life that I lived, but I'm telling you right now, what I'm seeing, I don't think we can survive this.
Right.
And so do you think that should have been Franklin's last straw? Because that was obviously Alton's last straw. That's why Alton ended up exposing him. And he didn't even like, he never mentioned Franklin's name or anything like that. But exposing the CIA exposed their family.
The reason why I'll say no is because I think Black men have complex relationships with their fathers. And I feel like Franklin is no, you know, excuse to that. Like I feel like him and his father have this complex relationship where he doesn't fully trust Alton. Yeah. And, you know,
he loves him.
Right. And he never can view him as this person that's, you know, this integral piece of his life. But it's like he's going to keep him around. He's going to fund this. He's going to do whatever he can because he's his father. Right. And I think that you know, he probably feels a certain way about, you know, what his father did and helping Yuri and all that stuff. But it's like, what's her name, Yuri, right?
Oh, Irene, the reporter?
Yeah.
Irene.
I'm thinking, you know what? Not to be politically incorrect, but the actress kind of looked like the character from the Spider-Man video game. Okay. So I'm thinking Yuri, but I'm, you know, that was kind of racist. I apologize for that. But
it wasn't malicious.
Yeah, it really wasn't. Like it really wasn't. But yeah, I feel like he has his own personal vendetta with his father, but I don't think that would have been his last straw because he already knew his father showed very little loyalty to him and his family. I feel like Alton is coming around to try to be a family man that he wasn't all those years. But I think Franklin has always viewed this as like too little too late. And
he has. And even like with Alton coming back, like his parents are put in a tough position because I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure what my last straw would be to abandon my child. Right. As a parent, that's like the last thing you're supposed to do. So it's like, yeah, my child's doing all this stuff, but like at the same time, like this shit is dangerous. And as a parent, like you raising somebody because the last episode last night it was a standoff between Reed Thompson and his father after he exposed Reed Thompson.
Everybody's getting on a plane, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And he's just like, you know, he's telling Reed Thompson, you're not going to use my son to fund your war anymore. My son is a child. And Reed is like, your son is the largest distributor of crack cocaine in the world. And I think that it was such a simple line, but it showed you like Franklin's parents, that's going to always be their child. And like, that's always going to influence the decisions that they make. And so like, speaking of characters, like what do you think the characters represent?
That's probably a question best answered when the show's done. To me, like I feel like we can give an answer, and I can think about an answer, but I'm like in the snap of an episode, somebody's complete arc can change. So it's like I like perfect example is Scully. His willing mercilessness to kill Franklin, to kill Leon, to kill all these people. And it's like, once his daughter died, he felt none of that. He was complete, like no malice was in his heart. No, like he wanted his daughter back. Yeah. And that changed his, arc for the rest of season 4. So I think that's like a question best answered when we can rewatch and we can really go in and see, what like what were their intentions and how their characters were fully fleshed out in the end.
Okay. So far, do you think um so there's obviously protagonist and antagonist. Who do you think is the antagonist? You think Franklin's the antagonist or you think he's the protagonist?
I think that this, or we can do this. I think that the show, and I think a lot of shows on TV, they kind of show morality as this thing that we all are like, it's fluid. Like, there's no, like we talked about this, there's no good and bad people in this world because we make good and bad decisions.
Right.
So I think that Franklin is he's, in the middle ground where he makes a few good decisions, but primarily he makes bad decisions. But he tries to make good decisions to offset the bad things that he does. So,
I agree with that. Yeah. If I'm being honest, like I after seeing season 4, I think Franklin is completely like a bad guy now. Like genuinely speaking, like season 4, I feel like, and season 4 in television, in my opinion, like that's like, if you make it to season 4, that's your season that'll either make or break your show. Because like the first season, people give you grace. The first season, some people give you grace. It depends on like how famous and respected like the people working on the show are. But season 1, people give you grace. Season 2, like if you're thinking about a TV show for a lot of seasons, like you're still fleshing out people. Season 3, we saw season 3 ramp up a little bit. But season 4 is where we saw really like the effects of like almost every decision that he has made up until that point completely like backfire on him. Because even with like Mel, like he at the end of season 4, the last episode, he told her, he was just like, when you shot me, I was like, he never admits to killing her father, even though he did. And that was kind of surprising when he
always omit.
Yeah. No.
I'm an omission guy.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Of course. But it was kind of surprising. That definitely surprised me when he killed Andre in his home, like in season 3, because I think that's when I saw the psychotic like part, like switch flip in his head. Because after he did it, he was like, and like just like, wow, I just did that, and kind of like didn't have like any like, I want to say remorse. Like he was, it didn't matter what it took. He was going to protect his business. And so, like I said, I feel like Franklin is going into season 5. I definitely think he's completely the bad guy. I think for you to start out as such a pro-Black person and like, we need to build up our community and then go and work for the CIA as they bring in drugs into our community. I think he's completely a bad guy. I also think Reed Thompson is completely a bad guy. Like they try to like give him like a sense of morality in the show, and it never appeals to me because I 110% believe like had Franklin been a white drug dealer pumping crack into white communities, 1, the police would have caught on way faster, and 2, he would have gotten his shit shut down because it's like, oh, you're killing white people. You know what I'm saying? And I also don't think, do you remember in season 4 when he went to Nicaragua or
Reed?
Yeah.
You Teddy, when he went and he like saw the villagers and he was looking for the soldiers and like I feel like I agree with you. I think trying to humanize him as a character doesn't always work, but I feel like that's what you have to do. You gotta. Yeah. I feel like
it's a responsible thing.
Yeah, like as a you can't just have the bad guys and the good guys. Like as the audience, we look for this kind of, maybe there's an inkling of good in him, and I think they're just giving the audience what they want, and but they don't do it in like a campy way where it's like, oh, here's Reed trying to be a good person. Like it adds to the story. It adds to the general motif of the narrative. So
what do you think about? So I find Franklin and Reed to be so similar. Like they're both in their respective careers. One thing about Reed is he does not. It's crazy that he does not see himself as a drug dealer.
Yeah. Self-reflection. You don't do a lot of that. He's not a self-reflector.
He's not, and I think that's a good point. He's which is crazy to me. I'm like, you're literally the only reason why cocaine is brought over the border. You do it for an exchange of money. And it's crazy because I feel like he has a different goal. Like everybody else has a money goal. I don't see Reed spend any of his money, use any of his money for like self-pleasure or anything like that. It seems like he's serving the system, serving an institution, and he's doing all this undercover and he's not reaping any rewards. And there's multiple people that tell him, like, there's Avi, there's the other CIA guy who's like kind of above him. Who else does this? And there's another person that's telling him like, you know, maybe it's time for you to take a step back. Like everybody on assignment has to take a step back at some point. But I think after his brother dies is when he kind of spirals. And I think they try to humanize him in that way too, but it's just like still like you can see like the benefits, well, the rewards to like Franklin's sacrifices and choices more clearly, where you can't really see the rewards to Reed's sacrifices and choices, because it's like it doesn't seem like he's getting anything personally from this. And on top of that, what are you doing this for? Like, what do you think like Reed's like?
I think Reed thinks he serves as a necessary evil. And I think that he thinks that he's just doing his duty. And that's what I think. You know, like I think that he might not show it, and you know, he might not show all his vices, but you know, he definitely like I say, he enjoys it, but he knows that like it has to be done. I think that was a big thing when, you know, the other agent who plays things more by the book was kind of like, okay, what is this generating? Why are we sending these guns here? Why are we sending this? You know, why? And he's like, because it has to get done. You know, I think like he just thinks like this has to get done. And
he's grieving. He's suffering from occupational burnout, but he's also what you'll see is that this is his new assignment. So he used to be in DC and he fucked up really bad in DC. And so he moved him across the country to go handle some, that's what it was. That Hispanic guy, the Alejandro.
Yeah.
That was his like, his Nicaraguan intel. And so he kills him for killing a girl that's missing. And then, yeah, he kills him for killing a girl that's missing. And then again, Reed kind of has an interesting character arc, because Reed is not like, when he starts out, he's getting his feet wet, and he's very much so, this is just, I think he feels like if he does not continue to do this, he's failing his assignment, and he's failing.
Yeah, he thinks it's a necessary evil. Like he thinks that it's something that has to be done.
Yeah.
You know,
that's exactly, that's what it is. Now that we're talking about it, I can see that, because I forgot that like this is kind of him being benched. And so he's just like, if I do this and I win this war, then, or I help win this war, then I'll get back in good graces with the government, and I'll be able to do this, that, and the third. I'll get my Purple Heart, whatever. And people are trying to explain to him that's like, you know, what you're doing is not really helping anybody. And especially after his final straw should have been when the Congress voted no, and they said they were not going to give any more money to fund this war. But he was already too deep, and he already felt like, you know, he was failing, so he kept going. But I do think that the characters are very fleshed out and represent like, you know, just the situations that we're put into, and how, and even though this is not a show completely, no, it's definitely influenced by race. I was going to say, even though the show's not completely influenced by race, but I think race is like one of the main factors here. It's definitely one of the main factors. And I think that I like how this show shows like, it shows a teeter-totter between morality for Black people, which I enjoy, because like a lot of times people look at us, at our community, as if we make choices that hurt us in a self-deprecating way, because we don't give a fuck about each other or don't give a fuck about us, when in reality, like a lot of times, again, we're like forced into these situations, because regardless, cocaine was going to come over the border regardless, people were going to sell drugs, buy drugs in our community regardless. But I think that it shows, like, you know, time and time again when Black people are like put up against, like, we're put up against the wall, and sometimes we feel like we have to take things into our own hands in order to get ahead, when we're not realizing that, when I don't think Franklin realizes, is that he's trying to play a system that's been founded way before him, and he's going into it naively, which is why, again, I don't think everybody around Franklin besides Leon is older than him. So I don't think he takes advantage of the wisdom that age has with the people around him. I don't think, even though he says he's doing stuff for his community over and over again, I don't think he's like utilizing his community to the best of his ability.
I think that Franklin sometimes views a situation, because you said that he doesn't utilize the age in his, you know, immediate circle. But I think sometimes he wants to experience something on a peer level. And that's why him and Leon are so in sync, because they're both figuring out this, you know, this path that they've took. They're figuring it out together because they're, you know, they are the same age. So I think that, because I know I do that. I know that I'm not always a seek wisdom. I want to figure it out with my peers, and I want to figure it out with people who are like-minded like me. So, you know, I think that Franklin sometimes definitely does do that.
I think, but again, I think Franklin's narcissism is in the way of some shit too, because even I think Leon is wise too. And I think Leon's wise because, like, Franklin definitely has removed himself out of the community. Yeah. Like, even though he says he's doing stuff out of the community, he looks at everybody like as other. And then his family is like, this is the same crew. Because it's amazing how these things still have not changed Franklin's, like, business model, or like his business minded self. Whereas Leon, like, the first thing, like, when they were looking for Mel, and Mel was on crack, and they were saying she was with Wanda, and and Franklin was insulting Wanda, saying Wanda was weak. And Leon was like, you need to check yourself, because you think we're making all this money because this shit not addictive. I think, like, Leon is maybe not necessarily wiser, but he's definitely more
in tune with his conscience
and compassionate towards the people that he's selling to. Yeah. Whereas Franklin, like, that's why I say I think he's going to be the villain this season, because, like, 100%, because, like, the compassion is not there. The conscience is just, again, I don't know what Franklin said he's scared of the CIA. But I honestly truly believe that if this nigga wanted to stop, he could stop, and the CIA would find another person. Like, it's like a hydra, like this drug business. Drugs have been sold in the US, I mean, since what? I mean, drugs and alcohol, I should say, because alcohol, you can be addicted to that. But, like, since Prohibition, which was like in the 1800s. So, I mean, like, nobody's new to this. Like, selling drugs, all that stuff is normal shit. And of, like, just because one dealer, like, takes a break, a new dealer will form. Like,
but I think Franklin knows that he can't win if he starts that war. If he gets out, the government, the CIA, they definitely view him as, you know, like liquid. They view him as something that's not important, and they will cut off his water instantly. Okay. And you know, like they'll, it's like, you know, and, like, to be frank, they'll kill him. So I think that's why he's, you know, kind of hesitant to maybe rock the boat like that, because he knows that he already knows Reed has no remorse towards him. You know, like, he views him as a business partner, and in business you have no friends.
So do you think Franklin at this point, because he can't still be chasing money, do you think he's chasing money? Do you think he's chasing power? Do you think he's chasing, like, what do you think is this character's want at this point? And actually, before we, like, you know, end and talk about, like, our last few points, what do you think is every character's want at this point?
I'll say, in the short, Louis wants power. Okay. I'll say Jerome wants Louis. Right. I'll say that Leon wants Wanda. As much as he wants to rid himself of her, you know, he, like, he want Wanda.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sissy wants Franklin's safety,
Mm-hmm.
and Franklin, as a mother, I feel like that's her role as protector. So she wants his safety. And I feel like Franklin wants I don't know. I feel like he wants all of the above. I think Franklin is the epitome of wanting his cake and eating it too. He wants to have the money, the power, the respect, the love, and the security.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the show is trying to tell him, like, everything that happens is like he can't have all of that.
Exactly. Especially not safety, because not safety, I wouldn't say respect. He can't have safety. It's very hard the way he's been moving to get respect and loyalty too. Because I remember in the episode with Manboy, like Manboy saying his final words, and he's just like, "You think that you're gonna survive this game, and these two won't turn on you?" And then we see in the last episode they kind of turn on him. Like Jerome and Louis don't want to. They don't want to kill Franklin. They don't want to, see him destroyed or anything like that. But they don't want to take orders from him anymore. They want their independence because every decision that they have made so far has landed them where they are. And then Leon, he doesn't want to see Franklin down bad or anything like that either. But he genuinely did not sign up for this. Like he don't want this no more. And I think that was like what Manboy said was kind of foreshadowing. And I think with each individual wanting like their independence or just wanting to do things their way, Franklin does see that as betrayal when it's not really betrayal. And also Franklin keeping a secret that, do you think everybody would have benefited from knowing that they were working for the CIA or no?
Yes and no. Because, it's like a two-way street. Because knowing you're doing something, it kind of influences the way that you move about certain things. And, you could have had a person telling them, like, I think if we look at how militant Jerome was when Louis was shot, that would, knowing what he knows now, he probably would have caused more havoc because he felt like he was protected by the CIA.
Okay.
Yeah, like, he would have, let's kill this, let's just do it and, kind of reap the repercussions after. And it's like, well, let's be smart. I think that's what Franklin's kind of trope was, like, let's be smart about it and make a calculated decision. He's like, let's go now. Because, and I think that if he would have known that they were covered by the CIA then, who knows what would have happened? Who knows what,
decisions they would have made.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Because, they all, none of them could figure out how he beat a murder charge. And I'm just sitting here like, ooh, that's obvious. Somebody like way, way, way up is protecting him. But we talked about the characters. We talked about the theme, the writing, the directing. We haven't talked about the directing. This show, unlike other shows, like every aspect of filmmaking is there, from the acting to the writing to the directing to the cinematography, and even to the purpose. I don't think there's any like filler episodes in the show. I don't think there's any filler scenes. There aren't any filler characters. Like everything has a purpose. Whereas I think we were talking about Euphoria, how great cinematography.
When I feel like a big thing to do when we critique these shows, it's no plight against the actor, the actress. I'm pretty sure women want to be referred to as actors. Like that's their craft. They're, they don't want to be in a box like I'm an actress. So I'll say the actors, the cinematographers, the DPs, the audio guys. It's never a plight on them. I feel like you got to look at the writing staff and you look at the directing. And like you were saying, Snowfall is this full, it's like a full thing. And, you can tell, like if we're using Euphoria as an example, you can tell what the show lacks. And when you look at the makeup of the show, the only writer and director are Sam Levinson.
Right.
And I feel like when you look at Snowfall, you can see where a team is necessary.
Right.
And I feel like there's a lot of movies There's a lot of movies that are okay movies in terms of being directed and written by one person, but everybody knows a team works better. Like The Brown Bunny by Vincent Gallo.
Never seen it.
It's you probably heard about it. It's an okay movie, and Vincent Gallo stars, writes, and it has a very graphic sex scene with him and Chloe Sevigny. But it's like you can tell that it's a good movie that would have been way better if he had a real staff that helped him out. And I feel like Euphoria is a show where you can see like you need a staff to help you out. And Snowfall is like we're the staff. And there's not a good idea and a bad idea. There's an idea that can be expounded upon, and there's an idea that maybe we can nip a little bit and add something to it, to make it better. And I feel like that is what we have, I feel like, because I don't want to drift too far into Euphoria, but it's an okay show that could be a lot better. But comparing it to Snowfall is like, comparing, like steak and a hamburger. They're kind of the same thing, but one is definitely a little bit better.
Yeah. And again, like, I mean, even so fleshing out characters, like we see if Euphoria is a show about a girl addicted on drugs and like how she is impacting like her like immediate community, then the show is lacking, because we go into Rue and her mother, but we hardly ever get to see Gia's point of view,
right?
Which is she's her sister. Like anybody knows, you grow up with siblings, like your family always sees the best and worst of you.
Right.
Everybody knows your siblings especially see the worst of you. So the fact that we don't have that point of view in Euphoria, but like in Snowfall, we get the point of view of Franklin doesn't have brothers, but Leon is his family. Leon's is like his best friend. We get Leon's point of view. We get his parents' point of view, his uncle, his auntie, all of that. We get his community's point of view, like being of him being a drug dealer and the community being affected by those drugs and everything. And I will say it's a show that keeps you there for like all the right reasons. I will say the storyline, the characters, the writing is the meat of the show. Like the performances and the writing is the meat of the show. The directing and the cinematography is just a plus. And I like that because I feel like with Euphoria, like, I had to stop watching because it was just too, for me, Snowfall can be graphic and it's a heavy show, but it's nothing they do is meaningless. Whereas like Euphoria, I feel like it's too traumatic of a show and too heavy of a show, where cinematography amazing, but it's not enough to keep me watching.
Right.
Whereas Snowfall, I just feel like the entire show keeps me watching. And it's like, I put it in the category of like, have you seen Chernobyl on HBO?
That's a movie, right?
It's a limited series. It's 4 episodes.
I heard about it, or maybe I'm thinking of Chernobyl, like, I know what Chernobyl is, but I haven't seen it or heard of it.
Yeah. So, well, the film is just, the TV show is, it's a recount of events, basically with the Chernobyl plant in Russia,
right,
in the 80s. And, again, a fictional story, but real scenarios and real things. And I feel like those are all like, Snowfall, I think it's a history lesson, but it's also a cautionary tale, because with Chernobyl, like they had this big plant explode, and they didn't tell the people of their city that shit was going on, where they should probably get out. They didn't alert world leaders, anything like that. And even though that's like a chemical plant releasing toxins in the air, that came out in 2019. Then we had the pandemic in 2020, and the pandemic kind of followed the same exact mistakes that happened in the show. And so I feel like shows like Chernobyl and Snowfall coming out the time that they do, I feel like they are cautionary tales of like, this is what happened in the past, because nothing's new under the sun.
Like, I feel like that's a great point, that history repeats itself. No matter how much people want to admit it, like history always repeats itself
over and over and over again. And so like watching these films, and this goes into my next topic, like how does telling the story impact our community? Because I feel like it's one thing to read about things happening, but it's another thing, like people have a different reaction when they see something visually. And I think a lot of us, like, I know for a fact this show, one of the things that this show has stopped me doing, I do not say crackhead anymore. I used to say And I know that doesn't seem like big to some people out there, like, oh, I'm gonna still say it, like, even like I'm just joking, whatever. But I was so far removed from that generation and just seeing like how that like impacted our communities that, you know, like if I'm joking around, like I'm like, they acting like a crackhead, like this must be crack, something like that. But now seeing the show and seeing like what that was actually like doing to our communities. And then again, the show made me so interested in the topic that I went on to read my own books, look at my watch some more documentaries and stuff like that. I feel like when we watch films, like it helps us have a greater understanding of not only like that time period and like what happened, but just like humanity. And it definitely helped me understand my parents a lot more. It helped me understand their politics a lot more, because to go through something like that and feel like you don't have no help, that you have to turn back to the government that is directly like doing that. Yeah, I would just say the show just impacted the way I was definitely seeing things from a certain age, a certain age, a certain class level. Yeah, I would say I was definitely seeing it from age and class. And so watching the show, I see the world completely different, honestly.
I think, well, first I'm gonna touch on you saying you don't use the word crackhead anymore, because I had a teacher in high school, Michael Ayala. He's my African American studies professor, but he would teach us like, you know, we would do the kind of hard hitting stuff, but he would be like, there are certain words in our everyday language that are so desensitized, like the N word, and it's something that we don't think about. And it's something that's in movies and film and, and TV and like in music and stuff like that. And it's like, these words hold weight. And I'm no person to say like, I don't say the N word.
Right.
Like, there are things that hold weight. And that phrase, like it's something that's so trivial to, I guess, us, like as young people, to be like, oh, he acting like a crackhead. Like it's something that's so jovial and so, memed that it's like, there are real people that went through, that era stuff. Yeah, like, and
survived.
And there's literally some that didn't survive.
Exactly.
And like, to say it like that's, and I feel like that's such a crazy word. Like, I'm just thinking about it, like it's really something that shouldn't be funny. And it's like, how did it even, spiral to get there? But, like I digress. That was, but I liked how you brought that up. And it's like, the show is changing my
viewpoint on a lot of things. Yeah.
I think that Snowfall hasn't changed my like view, because like I said, like I took the courses and I know a little bit. I learned, but it's like, to see something that was taught like in a in a lecture, in a book, and to see it kind of fictionalized, but it's like, oh, that really happened? Yeah. That this was something that was referenced, but I'm like, dang, this really happened. Like, yeah, it kind of shows you, like, wow. And I think one thing that Snowfall does that The Wire kind of picks up on is how far drug money travels. Yeah. And The Wire, in like in the later seasons 4 and 5, it kind of touches on, how far drugs impact the local government in Baltimore. But I think Snowfall is kind of taking that up another notch, and it's like, here's how this drug money is affecting the government, in the US, the government, like how we're doing business and everything. So I'm definitely like, seeing how far the drug dollar travels. Right. And that's what, like, Alton was trying to explain to him, like, not only to Franklin, but to like Teddy, like, you think you're using our community. Without our community, they wouldn't have no money. So you're using our community to fund an illegal war for what? And Alton asks him to understand his place in the world over and over again, because not only does Teddy not see that he is an actual drug dealer, he doesn't see himself as the white man, which he most certainly is.
he doesn't see it as black and white. He sees it as, because he sees Franklin as a business partner.
Right.
But he doesn't see how the position that him and Franklin are in, still that dichotomy is influenced by race. Even if Franklin is, powerful and stuff like that. And it also goes to show you that an exception to the rule isn't the rule. Like, just because Franklin made a lot of money as a drug dealer doesn't mean that you're going to do that too. And at some point in time, like, there's going to be a new reason to make money. There's going to be, veering off of that, rest in peace to Michael K. Williams. But he has a show that I need to watch. I think it's a documentary show, and it's about, like,
on Vice.
What's it called?
I forgot, but he on a few episodes he talked to, like, dealers. I think it was a crack dealer. It might have been, but it's like, where he's trying to not get to the bottom of why these people do what they do, but
explain, like, how the conversation is way more nuanced than I want some money.
You're like, literally,
and that's like Franklin's thing. Like, he wanted money, but it's like, you grew up seeing your mom break her back doing stuff. Like, trust me, I understand the motivation, but it's just like, again, you have to calculate cost, and when you calculate it incorrectly, you can end up making decisions that you can't come back from. And I think that's definitely what this show shows and encompasses. And I'm excited to just see this season, because I think because in the trailer, what they talk about, he's just like, the crackdown on my people has been brutal. And I think I feel like we're gonna have a time jump into the 90s. I'm hoping so, because if we don't, then I don't really know. I don't know if we can keep the show going year by year.
I think that another thing that they have done very well is the way that they tell the time in the show. Because I feel like if we're looking at shows now and we reference, we talked about Euphoria, but I think that Sam Levinson doesn't know how to tell time. He doesn't know how to tell a story, in chronological order, and everything is out of place and mismatched. And I think the flashbacks that are in Snowfall and the way that the story is told is very organic, and it's not in a forced way to push something that doesn't fit in. I think that everything kind of flows at its own pace, and it flows very well. And another thing I like is that they don't have a lot of flashbacks. There's very seldom
I think I've seen
back
like
in time.
3, maybe?
Like they don't go back. It's a show where everything is propelling forward, and it's we're saying snowfall, but it's really like a snowball. Like it's rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling, and now it's this big thing that Franklin is about to blow up. And
exactly. So what are your expectations for this season? I usually try not to have expectations for shows, or I most of the time I don't feel like I have expectations for things. I see the trailer and I'm like, whoa. But definitely after watching the documentary I've been talking about, I really, really, really want them to hit on the crime bill and stuff like that, which I feel like they're going to. But I want them to my expectation for them is to continue to show like everything that our community was dealing with, especially with like police brutality. And they referenced it on the television. It was in the background. But I also want them to get into the AIDS epidemic, because that was hitting our communities. Our community had crack, gangs, and AIDS all at the same time. We was down bad. Like, I want them to like show like how like that like just the crack cocaine era bleeds into all these other eras we have in American culture and history.
And that's another thing we have to applaud John Singleton and the staff on, is that they, like the Hughes brothers, they made a movie, Menace to Society, that features gangsters that are doing gangster things, but they're not gangbangers. And there's no affiliation. Like, Manboy was a Crip. He ran the Crips. Yeah. But we didn't see we didn't see it as red and blue flags, because
it wasn't. It was more regional at first. Right. Because Manboy ran Compton. Manboy ran Compton and Scully ran Inglewood.
But I'm just saying it wasn't like a red and blue kind of thing, and it wasn't like it was. It
started to be.
It started to be, but it didn't start out as that, and it's not. It's not the main focal point. And I think that's like Menace to Society. There are gangs, and we're not saying that gangs don't exist, but the way that the media kind of makes Black people out to be gang bangers and this person, shot by the police. Oh, he was also a Blood. He was also a Crip. Like, I'm glad that there's more media that shows, there can be lone gangsters. Like Franklin is a lone gangster.
Yeah.
He's a non-affiliate. Like he runs his own militia. He's not a part of a gang.
Yeah, so it's really just like the Saint crew,
right?
And because that's what they say throughout the entire time. Like, I'm gonna kill you and the rest of the Saints. And it's interesting that it's the Saint crew because Franklin. What they know is that Franklin took his mother's maiden name back after like his father left. So it really is like in the family. It's not even like he's got it's Franklin Williams and then the rest of them are the Saints. Like it's in the entire Saint crew. And that was a good point to make about how like Franklin is a lone gangster. Same thing with what I feel like about this show is it's kind of like a American Gangster, but a television show. Because American Gangster, like I used to think that I had seen the entire movie because I've seen it on BNT so many times until I watched it on Netflix and realized I had only seen the first 30 minutes out of all these years. But Denzel Washington is a gangster in New York, and he's bringing heroin. Is it heroin?
It was cocaine. It was right.
I feel like because he went over to Vietnam and saw the opioid fields, and he was flying back and forth, and
that's something we had to rewatch. Cinefiles.
Yeah,
hop back on it. No, but I definitely see what you're like saying. Like the lone gangster. He's there's no affiliation. There's no flags. There's no nothing. He's like, I am a gangster.
Yeah,
I am this person, and I don't need it to be. I don't need a family or group of people to be this person. That this is who I am.
Right.
But expectations. I think that Louis and Jerome are gonna try to step out on Franklin, and I think ultimately they're gonna try to backdoor him. Like I want to say that they're gonna try to sell him out to maybe the feds. If they get in trouble with some Arkansas people or make a deal with a new enemy. It's not saying that they are sneaky individuals and not loyal, but I think like you said, it's kind of a premonition. Like Man-Boy's like they will betray you too. Yeah, and it's I think something's gonna happen. I think that there's gonna be a lot more murder. I think that we're gonna see, like I said, I think Scully is going to become a youth pastor or something. He's going to have like a major change of heart. I think Leon is... I don't know. I don't think he's going to dead the situation that happened with his daughter in. I'm saying major change of heart, like he's going to just change his own personal, way of doing things. I think Leon is going to, figure out a better relationship with Wanda. And I'm excited to see what happens with Franklin's new girlfriend. I feel like he has a bad track record, like we've established. Yeah. So I'm like, maybe I want to know how he met this girl. Me and, what does she bring to the table? Why, I feel like when you're in a situation like his and you have, such loaded stakes and everything is, like, not to be funny, but like Spider-Man, like he's, Peter Parker telling Mary Jane, like, I can't be with you because I have enemies and they can't come after you. So it's like Franklin is putting her in this equation and it's like, why does he feel comfortable doing that? And, it's going to be something that I'm excited to see play out. I am too. Yeah. I think Franklin, he ended the season with his parents leaving, and that was a very hard thing for him. And I feel like Franklin's community, his community is getting smaller. And so I think he adds a woman to it all the time because he does get lonely. Honestly, truly. He does get lonely. His job requires a certain level of isolation. And so I'm excited to see what this woman brings to the table. I'm excited to see if Franklin takes Leon's advice and takes a step back and lets Louis and Jerome do their thing. It looks like it from the trailers, but I'm excited to see like what his role is now.
Leon, I feel like there's a time jump because at the end he was trying to get out the game, but in this one he looks like way more like brutal and vicious and like I'm here to like this is he. I think there was like a part of the trailer where he's like, if the police come at us, we're gonna come back just as hard. So like it seems like Leon has had a change of heart and he wants to, you know, I guess he's riding till the wheels fall off. I'm excited to see his mother's role because his father is dead. Like Teddy showed up to Cuba and he was reading The Spook Who Sat by the Door, which is a good book. I'm on chapter 14 out of 20. So when I finish that, I'll let y'all know how it was. But it's a good book so far. And I'm excited to see what his mother's role is in this now. Avi's still in this. So I'm trying to figure out what the hell Avi's doing, his old ass. And Reed, I want to figure out, like he went away, he took his break. I'm excited to see what I want to see if Reed has any type of introspection this season. Mm-hmm. And I also want to know if Gustavo finds Lucia.
That's I feel like when we talk about plot holes, that's something that doesn't get answered, mm-hmm. but you know, it's coming.
It gets hinted at though.
Right, yeah, it's coming.
So,
there was an interview, I think it was like an interview, and they said that the season opens on Len Bias.
What? Who's Len Bias?
You know who Len Bias is? The guy in the 1986 draft. He was second pick, drafted by the Celtics, and went to University of Maryland.
Oh, him.
Yeah, opens on him.
He was in the documentary that I was talking about.
But I'm saying he was like,
oh, so it opens. So this season opens on him.
Right, and it opens on he had a drug overdose. He overdosed on cocaine.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, and
it was like a joint laced with crack, right?
Something like that. And they said, but you know, like he was allegedly. I'm not gonna say allegedly because he definitely has talent, and I've seen mm-hmm. the documentaries and I've seen his highlights. Mm-hmm. But they said that he was, you know, better than Michael Jordan, mm-hmm. and it's like that how far the drugs are gonna touch these people, you know, in all
they
areas.
Touch everybody's lives in different ways.
And I think, and I'm excited to see how that opens this season up, because if that's the opening season of Len Bias's death, mm-hmm. you know, 2 days after he meets with the Celtics, mm-hmm. before he's, you know, and I think that's another thing, like he was about to get drafted, or he was drafted, mm-hmm. met with the Celtics, everything is fine, and then boom, all that is taken away because of, you know, these things that Franklin is doing.
I'm excited to see how it's touching crack becoming, I want to say, more mainstream. I'm excited to see how that opens up Franklin more, mm-hmm. because every season he exposes himself even more. And no matter how much he tries to shield himself and protect himself, by it touching more people, it exposes himself more. They're going to know where it's coming from. And I'm excited to see how the CIA continues to protect or abandons Reed. And I'm also excited, again, just to see how crack going mainstream, like how that impacts everything else. We've seen the addicts, and we've seen how it impacts the community, and we've seen the gangs, but we haven't really seen the police crackdown yet. Mm-hmm. We haven't really seen we haven't seen rappers yet either. That's
another thing. Yeah,
we haven't even gotten into hip hop yet. So yeah. I want the show to, without losing like its main plot, I want the show to expand and touch on all of that stuff.
And I feel like the center of it being in California, it's mad easy. Mm-hmm. It's like Hollywood, and like all that stuff, it's right in the backyard. And that was a good point. But I think watching Snowfall and watching how deep and intricate and calculated everything is, mm-hmm. it's fun to watch a show like BMF, mm-hmm. where everything is superficial. I'm mm-hmm. not saying BMF is a superficial show, but it's like their reasoning, mm-hmm. and you know, because that is another show that's based on a true story, mm-hmm. and it's like it's kind of like crazy to watch the contrast of why Franklin is selling crack and why Meech and Terry are selling crack, mm-hmm. and it's like the things they do with their money. You know, they buy the big chains, they buy the Mercedes, they go to the club, and it's like Franklin is like, he's building up his community. It's like, it's crazy to see that these things happen at the same time, mm-hmm. but it's also like different regions, it's like major factors, but it's like, it's great that we can come together and watch these shows, mm-hmm. and see how, you know, just because, you know, they are dealers. And I think that's a thing you were saying, like everybody's reasoning is different.
Yeah.
And everybody's,
Motive.
reward and everything is different for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good that we can like compare and contrast, but it's like, polar opposites. And it's very interesting that we have this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To close off, I just, if you haven't seen Snowfall yet, I encourage you to watch it. Like, I'm not too passionate about shows that I watch because I watch so many things. But if I were to say to watch something, it would definitely be Snowfall. It's an easy watch, I think. But definitely start from the beginning. It's on Hulu if you don't have it. It comes on FX on Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. They need to move that time up.
I think what it is though is that it's like I feel like FX. I don't really watch a lot of cable, but I feel like the shows that I do watch are FX shows because they're so mature and they're so like they're so real. Like Atlanta, It's Always Sunny. Like they can be funny shows, but it's like they show real life in a way that's like not for TV.
Right.
And it's like, I think that the 10 p.m. slot is like, it's like them being like,
we can adult slot.
Right. Like we can compete with HBO. We can show y'all that, just because it's not premium cable, it's still premium cable.
Right.
So yeah, I enjoy it.
I do too. It's just like sometimes that's a little late to have that much heavy stuff on my mental.
Especially if you had a long day, like, went to work, went to school, went all, you did all that stuff, and it's like, but it's also like the reward after all that. Like you could have a long day and then come home, prop your feet up and like, Snowfall's on. Boom.
Yeah.
Like,
But yeah, this was a great conversation. I just keep looking at the time just to make sure. It's not like we were going to go over time, but this was a great conversation. Obviously, y'all can see that we can rap about this show all day, and we can rap about a lot of stuff. So, this is the first episode in our Cinefiles series. And I'll probably have about four more episodes, guys. So let me know in the comments what you want to hear about. Nehemiah, thank you for being a guest on the show. We're in his space today, y'all. So it's a little different. Thank you for allowing me to be in your space. This is a great conversation. I feel like we have like so many conversations about films and stuff like that, especially if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, my name is OG_Shawty, SHAWWTY_. I might change it. I don't know. But I do a pause rewind with TV shows every week after the new episode. So right before the new episode comes out, I'll do a pause rewind of a recap basically of last week's episode. And I did that with Ghost. I'm doing that with Abbott Elementary. I'm doing that with Blackish because it's their last season. I'm doing that with This Is Us. If you don't watch that show, now This Is Us, that's another show I could go on and about. But I'm also going to be doing it with Snowfall. So watch this episode. Make sure you catch up on all of Snowfall's past episodes on Hulu. And tap into my Instagram to engage in conversation and questions with me after every show. But yes, thank you again, Nehemiah, for having me in your space, for being a guest. And now is the time where I always give my guests an opportunity to like plug themselves, tell people what you do, where to follow you, all that good stuff.
Yes, my name is Nehemiah Thompson. We are in my space, but I'm in camera space. She asked me to do this, and I was very willing because my Twitter is Max_Mill. I'm a graphic designer. I'm a stylist. I'm a personal shopper. All of that stuff can be found at by Nehemiah on Instagram. I'm wearing one of my shirts right now. Just dropped the Black History Month capsule. Drop almost every 2 weeks on a Wednesday. So I have a lot of stuff in store, and I'm glad I was able to come on here and just wax poetics about something that I love. I love TV, I love media, and I'm just I'm happy that we had an organic conversation. Yeah, that was it just worked, and man, I might start a podcast.
Listen, if you started, I want to produce it. I think there's so many things to talk about, and the people have so many lanes they can go into. You just got to know how to market yourself, and it just takes time because I'm still really only 1 year into this podcast stuff. But yes, you guys, I've known Nehemiah for a long time. Super talented, super creative. So make sure y'all tap into all of his platforms and cop some drip, of course, obviously.
Come on, guys.
Yes, but yes, thank you once again. Thank you for being on the podcast. As you guys know, even though it's a film series, I still have playlists. My playlists for my film series are going to be a little smaller. I do have a Snowfall playlist. It's called Cinefiles: Snowfall on Apple Music and Spotify, and it'll be in the description box below. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have anything, any film, any TV show that you want me to talk about, or that you want to talk about with me, you can hit me up on Instagram, hit us up on our podcast page, and just shoot me a DM and tell us what you think. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for staying this long into the episode. And please remember to always lead with light and love, which I always try to push at the end of every episode. We will see you guys next episode. Bye.